Hi, welcome to The Witch in the Woods, and today I want to talk about the continued series on Norse witchcraft, and today I want to talk about the Volvas. So Volvas were the seers of the Germanic tribes, and their name means wand bearer or staff bearer, and this may in fact relate to the long wands or distaffs that they were often buried with, that can be found in such graves as those at Freikat in Norway. Freikat. And they were often buried with plant substances that could be found in their graves, often in small bags. And these were things such as cannabis seeds and henbane. And these plants are known for their psychoactive properties, so it seems likely that the Volva was using these plants to take her into some kind of trance in order to see into the other worlds and to make her predictions. The Volva, or the Seidr worker, was a respected member of Germanic society, and she would use her natural inclinations towards psychic powers and mediumistic skills in order to make predictions for the tribe and for the people. Famously, some Volvas had such a good reputation that even the Romans deemed it necessary to record them in history. And among these were such women as Velida, who predicted the successful uprising of the Germanic tribes against the Romans. There was also a Volva called Albruna, and she took part in the campaign between Drusus and Tiberius. And then there was Ganna, who was Velida's successor, and she was renowned to have some political power and take part in negotiations with the Romans on behalf of her tribe. So these women not only had psychic and magical powers, but they were well respected and had political power too. So the Volvas were said to be able to see into the other worlds, into the web of weird, in order to gain understanding, insight, clarity, and make predictions. It is also said that they were often in the other world as intermediaries between the land of the living and the world of the dead. And this can be seen in the poem the Voluspa, which can be found in the Poetic Edda, in which Odin wakes a Volva from the grave in order to gain from her wisdom, answers and information. By way of proving her power and her ability to look into the web of weird, the Volva tells him everything from the beginning of the creation of the world to the end of the world itself.
Sjóðspíð chala helga kinder, Mirior mini mogu handala, Virtu et eg volføre, Vel fremdelia vom spjofira, Thou fremst man, Eg man jordna a umbona, Tha fóðar mig fóida hóifðu. Njoi maneg heima, Njoi I vithi, Mjó fifth muran fjermal Nathan, Ava alda tha I ima bigdi, Vala sandane senes vala unir, Jod fask anskne nipimin, Gapva genunga grasvergi. Athas bur sine bjorthum jupfu, The emithgard mjollen skjoppu. Så skjæn synen sale stjæna, The var grand grøn grønum lauki. Så vab synum sinni malna, Hendi inni hogri hemijodrir. So that ni visi var hon sali ati, Mani that ni visi vat, Hani megans ati, Stjonja that ni visi, Have stathi ato. The gengel Regin alle rogstolla. Gin heilig goth op that getusk. Not nitham norfun am gafu. Morgem heitu och mietjan dag. Und och apen arm Italia. Hitusk eise ada itha veli. The ein og eg hofa timbruthu. Afle lathu o smithuthu. Tangia skopi och toguthu. Tafu atuni tetia varu. For them vitagis vant og guli. Un strala kjomu thusa meia. Amad kamiok o jotten heimun. Tha gangem reigem olla orkstolla. Gin heilig goth och thait getuske. Fasgjeldid vagad vatum skepja. Brimi blachtu o blains legion. Daarvan mog solina meidsu othan. Dverga alla et durun ana. The man liken mog gothu. Dverga I jothu sem durin sachthe. Niam nithi northri suthri. Austri vestri o fjordvalin. Nerak nen, ni pingaden. Bifo bafa bombanori. Anokana on morfitna. Vigg and Gandalf, Vindalf Thorin. Thelle threina Thekk Lit och Viti. Nyr och Nyrath-now. Nu hefi ektvega. Regin och Rathsvith. Rat Untitled. Fili, kili, fundi, nali. Hebti, vili, hana, sivi. Bilinga, bruni, bilde och buri. Fra hon buri, frega och loni. Alvanga, jari, asken, jali. Male dverga at valens lithi. Lionna kindem lafas telja. The esutu frostala steni. Of vangasja til jura vala. There's var dropna og dalstrasia. Ha hog spuri. Helvenga gloin. Dori ori duffi and vari. Skifia vifia. Skalfithia ai. Alfa och Yngvi. Ekken skjaldi. Fjalar och Frosti. Finne och Ginnar. Dat man ein opi mithan ot lifia. Van glithia talafas havas. Und the kvavno o vi lithi. Ofge och aske Aesir et husi. Findu a landi lit megandi. Aske o embla o glausi. Vauni artu o thini hawthu. Lane leiti ni litu gotha. Gath othin of gath hona. La gath lotho og litu gotha. Ask veitek standa heitia ig drasila. Ha bath mir o sin vita ori. Thathan koma dogfa these dala fala. Standa ifa grona utha bruni. Thathan koma mea mags vitandi. Thia o them sal en tholis gender. Utha hyta aina athra verfandi. Skara askithi skuld in thrio. Velog hluthu. Velith kulu. Alda bonum olog segja. That man has volkig fest I heimi. A Gullveig gerem studu. Hochjai has hana brendu. Thrisvar brendu, thrisvar bona. Opt as jaldon, tho hon an lifa. Heithi hana hetu. Havasen husakal. Voluspa, Viti Hunganda, Seiðkona has hon kini, Seiðkona hugliken, var hon angan ila brutha.
She also tells Odin secrets of his own life and things that only he could understand, such as how he lost his eye and where it is to be found in the well of Mimir. After telling how the world came into being, she tells not only how it will end, but how it will then be reborn and renewed in hope. The Volva is called many names, variously Voluspa, Volur, Volfur, Vitki, from which we get the word witch, a seiðkona or a seiðkona, which in Scottish we know as a spey wife. She was also known as a seiðkona or a seither worker. Often she is also named Heiðr or Heather. Now, this may be where we get the term heathen from, and which we understand as the term for a heath or for somewhere where the heather grows. It is said in the Voluspa there is the story of Gullveig, who was the first witch, and the Voluspa tells of her that she was speared by the Aesir and then burnt 3 times, but despite this burning she would still live, and she rose and gained more power and eventually became a seidr worker or a Volva. The telling this story happens after the mention of the creation of the world, and it may be that the poetess of the Voluspa is actually telling this story about herself. It was also said that she was beloved by wicked women, therefore that from there on in, but we've got to remember that this was written down in Christian times, and according to Christian doctrine, woman was the root of all evil on the world when she ate the apple from the tree of life. So there may be some Christianization of an older story. Another suggestion is that this story was actually written down in later times and based upon the biblical book of Revelations, which had to relate some Norse mythology to Christian mythology, and therefore it predicts the end of the world and then the rebirth following the end times. But if we take Heiðr as the meaning of heather and heathland, it makes me wonder why the witch belongs to the wild lands. Upon the 3rd burning, the Volva becomes a witch and practices the art of seidr. Now, the heathland is also burned periodically, and it becomes renewed by this burning. Old heather cannot maintain life. It lasts about 30 years, where it goes through 3 or 4 phases. The young fresh shoots, the matured plant, and then the decaying plant. So the burning of the heather, the burning of the heathlands, renews the land itself and allows those new fresh shoots of heather to spring up, and these are important food for many animals and many species, and maintain the heathlands as they are. So these Volvas are magically associated with Freya, the goddess of sexuality and fertility. It was told of them that they were themselves were seen as near deities, and this may be reflected in the high chair that the Volva was offered and from which she worked upon. This is also reminiscent of the high seat of the Pythia at the Oracle of Delphi, and also the shamanic platform from which some Siberian shamanic Udigans give their trance work and predictions from. So this made me wonder, as this is not really very often talked about from what I can see on the internet, but is there a connection between this witch called Heiðr and the wild heathlands and the land itself? So what is a heath? A heath is an upperland bit of moorland on which the heather grows and from which it takes its name. There's not a lot else will grow there, but it is strange that it is on these upperland bits of heathland where we will find barrow mounds and burial sites that are quite ancient. They are also the wild bits of land that are outgard. They are beyond the boundaries, they are beyond the homesteads, they are wild and untamed and otherworldly. So we've long burned the heathlands. As I say, we need to burn the heathlands, the heatherlands, in order to maintain this wild bit of land. And it's come into a little bit of stigma recently because of the grouse hunting, that being a rich sport for the nobles and aristocrats and wealthy, and the fact that the land management needs to be maintained very carefully, in that if you overburn, the land will become acidic grassland and will not support anything. It will become waterlogged and it will become acidic. And if you underburn it, then it will turn into birch woodland very soon. And so it needs to be maintained, burnt regularly in order to become fertile land. The name heath refers to a place where heather grows, and it also may relate to the word heathen. And both these words seem to relate to a Proto-Germanic word which is kaithis, which means hearth. So heathens may refer to those old worshippers who worship the ancestors and the sacred power of the hearth. And Heiðr is also believed to come from a word which means bright and has some connotation with the meaning of honour. The name Gullveig is quite interesting too. It means something akin to gold drink or gold intoxicating liquids. Now this is one interpretation, but there are many others. In the story, she is speared by the Aesir and burnt 3 times to be reborn as a seiðkona. Now, some scholars believe this is a reference to smelting gold in order to purify the gold into a bright, shining, golden substance. When she is transformed, she takes on the name of Heiðr, meaning bright. Now others argue different etymologies. The pre-word gull means gold, and the afterword veiga could mean various things such as strength, which is quite commonly used in names, meaning strong and powerful. Or it could also come from the word veigja, which is Faroese for an intoxicating drink. Other arguments is that it may refer to Veigi or Veiga, which is Norwegian for lady, and some suggestions even say that it may come from the Anglo-Saxon or Old Saxon term veig, which actually means threads. So what we know is that burning heathlands started around 5,000 years ago, and without regenerating the heather, the heath degenerates and offers very little by way of foraging foods for important animal and livestock such as sheep, deer, wild birds and rabbits. And as I say, without this burning back periodically, roughly every 8 to 30 years, the land would actually quickly turn into a birch woodland. And this was originally how the land was cleared, to rid it of the trees, to open up the grasslands for cattle and for animal feeding. Now, in relation to Gullveig, meaning gold intoxicating drink, it's funny that before we actually used hops for beer, all beer was made from heather. So there may be a connection between this golden intoxicating drink and the heathlands and the heather. And in ancient times, these heathlands were actually cleared by burning off in a controlled manner using brooms. Brooms made of birch twigs to set light to small areas and keep the fire controlled. So there may be some relation here as well with the witch, the broom and the burning back of the moorlands. So I was looking this up on the internet and I found a Game and Wildlife Conservation Trust article which stated that ancient settlers here and in Denmark, Norway and Sweden are known to have used fire and grazing as management tools to clear woodland and suppress regeneration. So we know that this is a Northern European habit, a Northern European practice. So heather burning was in fact a very important way of managing the moorlands. Oliver Rackham says of it that heaths are clearly products of human activity and they need to be managed as heathlands, and if neglected will quickly turn into woodlands. So it seems important to burn back the heath periodically in order to promote new growth and fertile foraging for important animals such as sheep, deer, rabbits and wild grouse. The poem Voluspa is translated as something like, "She remembers the war of the people first in the world, when Gullveig with spears they studied, and in Har's hall they burned her, thrice burned, thrice born. Often again, though yet she lives. They called her Heiðr when she came to their house, a seeress skilled in prophecy, who knows the skill of wands. She practiced seiðkona magic, she practiced trance. She was ever the joy of an evil, wicked woman." So only the Prose Edda story of the Voluspa mentions this witch, Gullveig. Now, talking of Volvas and the use of their wands or distaffs, the distaff is the tool that holds a head of wool or a head of flax in order to be able to spin it into usable threads. And we've been spinning flax into linen for at least 35,000 years. And evidence of this has been found in places like Çatalhöyük in Turkey and in a cave in Russia dating back 35,000 years. The term dis actually means a head of flax, and flax is known for its golden colour. Therefore, I would say that the term Gullveig would actually refer possibly to golden threads and have some association with the art of spinning and the distaff. The distaff is also a female side of your family, the male side being known as the spear side. So you have the distaff side and the spear side. And this is where we get the term the Aesir, who are the ancestral guardians of the tribe and the female side. When she becomes the witch, she is known as Heiðr, or Heiðr. She is also called in various sagas common names, and one of these is Thretha. Now, Thretha is a term or a name that is derived from Thor, who is Thor, as we know him today, but was known as Thor, and Thretha. And Thretha means to turn something into something beautiful and lovely and beloved. So it's turning the power of Thor into some beautiful, beloved thing. It is said of her that she could spin people's minds by touching them with her distaff on the heads. The Volvas are also associated with Freya, who is the goddess of magic, enchantment, and who is linked to cats. And it's said of the Volva in Eric the Red saga that she wore a hood of lambskin lined with cat fur. And cats are known for their psychic senses, their femininity and their sensuality. So the Volva in general followed 3 arts of practice, and these were Seiðr, which was a shamanic art and the art of trance and seance, and she could use her magical shamanic powers to shape the future. And for this, the use of the distaff was utilised as some form of magical wand, spinning out new fate through charm and ceremony. Another art of the Volva was the spa, and spa was the art of prophesying. And in Eric the Red saga it says of the Volva that she is said to have worn a bag on her belt in which she kept charms for divination. So reading the omens and casting the runes and divining was another art of the Volva called spa, which is where we get the name seiðkona from. And the third art was galda, which was the art of incantation and charming through word, rhyme, rhythm, chant and breath. And it was a special art to create change in the world through intent and the power of words. So the Volvas would travel from house to house, where they were received as honoured and special guests. And their wealth and status was reflected in their burials, where they were often buried with horses and chariots, as well as with their magical wands and with fine clothing. So the fame of the Volva reflects a culture where women were held in positions other than just as wife or mothers, but also as shamanic and magical practitioners. Their advice was valued and they became powerful and politically active, not just through money and status, but through their use of magical powers and psychic powers. And mainly I've spoken of women in this video, but this is mainly because the art of spinning was always women's work. However, magical practitioners have always been of both genders. So please don't be offended if you feel that I have just focused on the female practitioners of Heiðr and the Volva herself. So thank you for listening. Oh, if you've got anything to add to that, or any other things to debate about the etymology of Volva, Heiðr, or of this connection to this witch, to the regeneration of the fertile land and to the wild lands, then please write them in the comments below. Thank you for my new subscribers, thank you for listening. If you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, and I hope to speak to you all again soon. Thanks, bye.